Corporate turnarounds are a messy business, but Alvarez & Marshall is a leader in this industry and works very often with large international companies to help them work through tricky situations. Sankar Krishnan, Managing Director and Head of Alvarez & Marshall's India office, as well as Nikhil, Shah, Senior Partner, are joining us today at INSEAD Knowledge. Thank you very much. Now, in this particular case study, you were brought in to handle a very complex turnaround for a textile manufacturer in India. Senior management were accused of potential fraudulent behavior, and the firm was overall in a very messy state. How did this come about, and where did you start?
So there are, three parts to every assignment that we work on, and specifically related to turnarounds. The first part is really in terms of liquidity management and planning, which is actually having enough cash in the business in order to continue to operate and actually figure out what needs to be done going forward. The second part of it is really identifying, what is the right business model and where the operational performance can be improved, both in terms of revenue, in terms of cost, in terms of efficiency, productivity. And then it's really executing that plan on the ground.
What are the greatest challenges when coming into a company that is going through a difficult turnaround?
So I think right off the bat, the biggest challenge is establishing credibility. So I think there's typically a stakeholder that has brought us in, whether that's a lender or a private equity investor or the board. And then it's, in order to establish ourselves, you have to quickly create, actually deliver some improvements in the business quite quickly. And then you sort of are able to actually push through the agenda of actually major reform within the company. And that, there's sort of stages so the first thing is that, stabilizing, establishing credibility and stabilizing the operations. Really.
I always call cash is king. So the first thing you want to do is to get your arms around, the liquidity of the business. In every case, find out where the cash is coming from, where it is going, and how can I maximize what's coming in versus what's going out. Once you have that, once you have cash, once you have liquidity, then you have time. So you can start looking at a short-term to medium-term, planning, and also, that gives you the ability to deal with the external forces, supplier issues, customer issues, all those things can be dealt with. So, concentrate on cash in the beginning.
Are there any other factors that need to be taken into account to ensure that the turnaround is successful?
Yeah, I think very important is stakeholder management. I think people around the world and in India tend to not place as much emphasis on stakeholder management. But I think that was my key learning actually from the case, working with Shankar actually for the first time. It's very, very important to over-communicate in these situations. You have various stakeholders, and they can all put a stop to what you're doing if they want to. And so it's very important that you get them on board. And the way to do that is really to keep communicating with them as much as possible. And over time, once you build the confidence and credibility with them, then everybody starts moving in the right direction. But in the beginning, you need to do that. That's, I think, a very critical part of the process.
The other part is really customers. You have employees. You got to make sure that they are, you keep them happy. Make sure you listen to them. We have a lot of town hall meetings, keeping them informed of what is going on. But more importantly, how do you convince your customers to stay with you? You're going to have some bad customers, which we were happy to, lose because they're not paying their bills. But there are a lot of good customers, and how do you make them buy more? So, you prioritize in terms of how do you want to approach the customer relationship.
And what is your most important advice for senior managers in turnaround situations?
Well, in terms of success factors, it's really trying to gain the confidence of the stakeholders. For example, one case that we are involved in, which is the largest shipyard in India, private shipyard, there are 40 plus lenders involved. And so even though there are some secured lenders who are more prominent, and there are maybe 6, 7 of them, then you have a lot of the other people who follow. And to get everybody together, even in a room, to agree on something is we are finding it extremely difficult. But now you have to manage that, and the way you manage that is to really be very organized in your thoughts, organized in your communication, point out to them what the key issues are, and then you're also at the same time fighting the founder, the chairman of the board, who is also the founder, the promoter, who wants 52%, 53% of the business. And so you have to bring all these people together, and if you can successfully do that, even if you're up to 75-80% bringing them together, I think that goes a long way in terms of trying to put together a plan as to how to revive the company. And obviously there is always a cash issue. I can't emphasize more about managing liquidity.
In particular, in the context of Alvarez and Marshall, for you building your teams, what kind of skills are critical for a turnaround expert? What is important?
I think strong communication skills. I think analytical capability, but not to the extent of over-analyzing, but basically having a fact base that is actually objective. Objectivity is a key one, and I think the ability to really build credibility and consensus. And it's different for different roles within the turnaround. Different people play different roles, but overall, I think the ability to really carry people and sell the plan, build relationships quickly, and establish credibility.
The first thing I always tell the people who come to work with me is focus on what needs to be done. Don't get distracted, because it's very easy to because there's so many things will come at you at the same time, but you have to synthesize into, okay, what are the things that I need to focus, and be like a laser beam on that, and which is all the things that we talked about, cash, client management, communication, etc., etc.
Sankar and Nikhil, thank you very much for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you here.
Thanks, Claudia. Thanks for inviting both of us. It's been a pleasure.